You're listening to Loving BDSM Podcast, episode 192. Kayla Lords here with the one, the only, the a little less swollen, hivey, and itchy than you have been all week, John Brownstone.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in the bonus section.
Yeah, he's also caffeinated, as all John Brownstones should be.
And drugged.
Caffeinated and drugged. Ooh, that sounds like a good combo. This week, we're answering a listener question about their extremely valid concern that a suggested change or transition in their DS dynamic might not work out for the best and what they should do about that. Welcome to the Loving BDSM podcast. If this is your first time listening, glad to have you. If you're back for another week, welcome back. Loving BDSM is produced every Friday for your kinky pleasure and education, and show notes are found at lovingbdsm.net. Come back often and feel free to add the podcast to your favorite podcast app. If you love what you hear, we'd love a good review wherever you listen to us to help other kinksters find us. You can follow the show on Twitter at LovingBDSM, on FetLife at LovingBDSMPC, on Instagram at that handle I will forever fucking hate, LovingDS and the number 1, LovingDS1, or on YouTube at youtube.com/LovingBDSM, where you can usually watch us live stream the podcast every Wednesday, except not this week. We'll talk about that later too. Yeah. All links are in the show notes. A big shout out, as always, to our kinky patrons on Patreon, including our newest peeps. We see you. We love you. We thank you for your support. Your financial support helps us keep doing things like this. If you'd like access to more content, to more us, to Q&As, to bonus sections, to whatever we come up with for 2020, I still have to do that part. And if you want to support this show, if we've helped you and you are able to financially support it, you could become one of our kinky patrons for as little as $1 per month. Just head to patreon.com/Kayla Lords, patreon.com/Kayla Lords, or use the link in the show notes. And before we get started, want to thank our sponsor this week.
Yes.
Back again, The Cage. You'll find them at thecage.co. If you are looking sort of for your online peeps, whether you are part of a pretty vibrant, thriving kinky community, or in person or not, having a space online where you can kind of just be yourself is pretty nice. Thecage.co is an online BDSM community created by kinksters for kinksters. They place a premium on not just safety and protecting your privacy, but also making sure that no matter what you're into, you can either find a group already there that's into it too, or you can set up a group or a forum or have a place to connect with like-minded peeps and also to explore the things you're like, kind of curious about this. What's that about? So membership to The Cage is always free as a basic member. Premium membership is about $8 per month US, but for new members, if you sign up using our special code, you get 2 weeks of premium membership for free, so you get access to absolutely everything. And then after 2 weeks, you can decide, do I want to stick with this, or do I want to go back down to the basic membership? But you don't have to give a credit card, so you don't get stuck. I could tell a story later about how that happened to the 14-year-old, and now he's in a weird agreement with a blah blah blah. Yeah, that's not going to happen here. So go to thecage.co. Check it out. You can actually look around before you ever register, so you can kind of get a feel for the place. That's one of the things I really like about that.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating when I'm like, I just want to know if this is like the right place for me, but you're making me give you all my information first. Please stop. They don't do that. So you can look around. You can't do much if you're not registered, but you can kind of look around, see if you like it. If you're like, yeah, I'll give this place a shot, sign up for premium membership. Use the code LOVINGBDSM. Pretty sure y'all can remember that. Loving BDSM. You get 2 weeks free premium membership as a new member. So, thank you to The Cage. Sponsorships like that help pay the bills too. I've been watching a lot of YouTube stuff and listening to a lot of podcasts, and I don't think I'm ever going to be one of those people that tries to make a sponsorship like natural, like, ooh, who are these random people that just show up here? I'm going to tell y'all, they help pay the damn bills, and I appreciate them for it, and we are very glad that they are a sponsor. Yeah. Okay, so before we get into the topic, I do want to say this, and we will talk about more about why in the bonus section. but we have brought it back old school this week.
Yeah.
We are at a desk. Well, it's not truly old school because we're not in a stuffy closet sitting around an old laptop.
No.
But we are sitting at the desk. There's no camera on. I'm wearing no makeup. We could be naked and you would not know. We are not naked. Neither of us feels good well enough to like not have clothes on. But this is just an audio recording this week. There's no live stream companion to go with it.
Kind of cool going old school.
It is. As somebody who likes all her partners to be older, I do like to go old school. That's a completely different topic, though. Vintage? No, that's a different topic.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the why later. I love doing the live stream, and I know the people who manage to watch that live stream or be a part of it, they enjoy it too. That's not me bragging, y'all. They tell me that they love it. But it is really nice to go, you know what? We're just going to sit down and record a podcast. Okay. And 5 minutes later, coffee in hand, notes up on my laptop. Here we are.
I mean,
it took no effort.
As much work as it is to get it set up, I like it too. I mean, we have a really great group of people that jump in there and join in with us. And yeah, it's cool. I enjoy it. And the interaction that they have with us and with each other in there is really amazing.
Well, and I like that interaction so much. I have had a couple people send me links on the podcast side where you can do kind of live podcast recordings too, sort of like live online radio. I have not looked into it because I do not have the bandwidth for that. But there's a part of me that's like, well, maybe that would be cool too, to do something like that on the podcast side. But y'all, don't anybody get excited. Just don't. But yeah, this is nice to turn on mic, start speaking.
Yeah.
It's nice. So let's talk about the topic.
Okay.
And I went into, this one's been burning a hole in my list
for
about 6 weeks easily. And it actually came as a question, and I tried to talk to you about it when the question came in, and then you were sick, and you were really tired. There was something going on.
I was tired.
And you were like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, we'll come back to this. Well, here we are again.
Oh, wow, okay.
And you are recovering from the most recent thing, so we're going to talk about it again.
Yeah.
And the question was not one I get a lot, but I think it's on a lot of people's minds. Maybe they just don't admit it or want to talk about it. But it came from this person who, submissive or bottom in their bedroom-only DS, loves it, enjoys it, it works really well for that person. Their partner asked, wants to transition bedroom-only DS into DS outside the bedroom. Not necessarily 24/7, although it might become that. Not necessarily a total power exchange where they are in charge of everything, but something more than what they have. And the question they asked a few questions, but the main question they asked was, am I wrong to be afraid that what if this transition in our relationship takes something that's already really good to me and actually makes it worse? What if this ruins things? What do I do? How do I handle it? And so I was thinking about this, and I think this happens in all kinds of ways. I think it can be a concern if you are vanilla and you're transitioning to kink and one of you brought the idea to the other. I think it can happen if you're like, oh, we were just play partners, but I kind of like, I caught some feels for you here and I'd like this to be something more. Or, hey, I thought I could do like a monogamy thing, but actually, there are all kinds of transitions. We have done an episode on transitioning your relationship, but this concern from this one person is not the only person to have this concern. I don't think we always articulate it that well.
No.
I mean, they were pretty like they were clearly given some thought. That sounded like an introspective person after my own heart. They were like, okay, but what I've got is really good. So also, why should I change if what I've got's really good? And you know that I have thoughts.
Yeah. Of course.
So I think the first thing I want to point out for anybody who is resonating with that and they're like, oh my God, yeah, I've totally felt that way. That feeling is absolutely valid.
Yeah.
First of all, most people don't love change. Some people thrive on it. Those people are out there. They do exist. I am always fascinated by those people. I used to lie to myself and say that I don't like change, like I hated change. And it's not that I personally hate change. It's I hate change that feels out of my control. I hate change that I did not have a hand in, that I did not decide about. Like all the changes I've ever had in my life that I hated were things that felt out of my control. And yes, I can say that as a submissive because, yeah, y'all have been around here long enough. This should not come as new information. And I have a feeling that the majority of people, not all by a long stretch, but a good majority of the people who would say, I hate change, if they dug down deep, that's likely what they mean. When it's a thing they want to do, even if they're nervous about it, there's still some excitement, and so it's not so bad. But when it's forced upon them, they don't like change. So first of all, I think that's the first part, is to recognize that change is scary, change is difficult. Not everybody adapts well to change, even when they want to change. How many times have we been thrown off by a routine change? Something simple, not even the entirety of our relationship. Just a simple routine change that we chose, that we planned, and then we got into the middle of it and went, this kind of fucking sucks. Why did we do this to ourselves? So even the change you want to happen can throw you off.
Yeah.
And I think that is probably the first thing to recognize. So if you are the partner coming to your partner going, hey, here's a thing I'd like to change, I think you have to be aware that your partner could push back, not even because of any specific reason about the change, because of the fear of change itself. And part of that is this concern that this listener had, which was, things are good now. Why would I change that? Why rock the boat? And
why fix it if it ain't broke?
Yeah, exactly.
Thing, yeah.
And sometimes that's the whole argument. It's not broke. Why do anything to it?
Right.
But the other thing that comes to mind is that, especially in BDSM and kink and DS, none of this is like fixed. So who you were a month ago as a kinkster is likely not who you are today. A year ago,
right.
10 years ago, like we're all constantly changing.
Always in flux.
Always. Even if we kind of resist it, even if we kind of wish that things could be permanent, nothing is permanent. Nothing stays the same forever. So I also think for people out there who are really resistant to change, it's probably important to keep that in mind. That it is better when you can to at least feel like you have some control over the change, that you are a participant in the change, not that it is happening to you, or it is thrust upon you, it is forced upon you. Any change in a DS dynamic cannot be forced upon you. You do have to consent to that change. But the other side of that is, if your partner wants a change bad enough and you don't want to make that change, the likely real outcome is that relationship ends because it can't move forward together.
Yeah, I think the to me at least, the big thing here is, you would talk obviously about people not liking change, which is all too well true. But I think part of that is because when you fear the change, you resist the change. And by resisting the change, that makes it all the harder.
Right, and it's usually a fear of the unknown more than anything.
And I don't want to say, you should embrace the change, but I think you kind of need to go with the flow.
As long as it doesn't hit a hard limit.
As long as it doesn't hit a hard limit, that's a whole different story. But you kind of need to try and go with the flow, and that way you feel like you have some control in the change. Now, I grant you, this is a talked about, apparently. I'm going to go with the fact that this has been talked about, and, both parties are fairly willing to give it a try. And there's a thing, try to embrace it, go with the flow, and give it a try.
Right, and that was in my notes. I've got commit to at least trying. Don't commit to this is what you're going to do forever. Commit to the effort of, well, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Let's lay down some rules. Mm-hmm. Let's lay down some parameters. Let's negotiate what this transition might look like. always, always, always go slowly. Do not jump in with both feet.
Nope, baby steps.
Baby steps.
Don't jump out of the frying pan into the fire.
Right. I think we did an episode on transitioning to 24/7, where that I think was most of what we said for that hour and a half. Just slow the fuck down.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the biggest thing. As long as it's not a hard limit, as long as it's not something that is just completely antithetical to who you are as a person, it is not the relationship you want, you hate the idea of it, every part of it makes you cringe. Okay, if you're not having that reaction, if what you are thinking is, it's not awful, but what if? Oh, what if is the bane of my anxious mind. I can live in a world of what ifs. And the problem when you focus on all the what ifs is that what you end up not moving forward and doing anything. You actually just stay right where you are. And sometimes staying right where you are is no good either.
Create a status quo.
Exactly, because then you're not growing within the relationship. So the thing I would say is commit to trying, commit to those first steps. Talk about very seriously with your partner who's wanting some transition in this DS relationship, from vanilla to DS, from bedroom to 24/7, from play and maybe kind of platonic to something romantic or sexual, like whatever it is, as long as you're open to it, even if you're scared, talk about what this means, what this looks like. Figure out a first thing that you would be willing to do. This is not true of all anxious people, and anxiety is just sort of like worrying on steroids. It just takes fear and worry to a really, really negative place.
Yeah.
It's beyond your typical, oh, I was a little concerned about that. It can become really unhealthy. So wherever you fall on that, from the I'm a little worried to, oh, I can't sleep at night because all I think is what if, that's some level of anxiety, by the way. For many of us, myself included, the only way people talk about getting over it, and in anxiety, even mild worry, there is no getting over it, there is going through it. In some cases, it is about doing the thing you fear, trying the thing you fear, because our mind can easily come up with a worst case scenario. It can also come up with a best case scenario.
Yeah.
But the reality is that most of the time, the reality is somewhere in the middle. It is neither the worst nor the best. It is neither the end and death of your relationship, nor is it all sunshine and roses like your partner's thinking, like, this is going to be the best thing we've ever done. And actually, no, it's going to be difficult, and it's going to be different, and it's going to require adjustments, and there's going to be misunderstandings, and there's going to be changes to everybody's life to make this one transition. And that's actually the reality. But the best way, in some cases, depending on what we're talking about, to get past that worry is to go through it, do the thing you're scared of, and then discover that your worst fear is not what's actually going to happen.
Yeah. Now, what I think would be a good help aid in this, especially since this is treading completely new territory from what they're used to, being in the bedroom to outside, is I think a good option would be to definitely have a weekly check-in.
Or more, for sure.
Or more. At very least a weekly check-in. To a predetermined time that both parties can sit down and talk about what's going on. What's going good, what's not going good. Be willing to compromise and adjust.
Right. And the thing is, when you have these conversations, be honest about what you're unhappy about, what's not going good, from both sides. So there is a tendency in some cases for the person who wanted this change to not want to admit that they're unhappy with something, because then, I might be ruining my chances for this change. The other side, especially if, I just know this from a submissive perspective in general, if the other side is the submissive and they didn't necessarily want this change, and so they're seeing problems, you might be fearful of holding back and saying, here, things aren't working, because you want it to work. And so you might, and this actually is a regardless of the slash kind of thing, you want it to work for your partner so your partner is happy. And so you might be less inclined to talk about the things you don't like for fear that you're letting them down, that you're going to ruin it. You're not. Every conversation you have is potentially another opportunity to go, okay, we tried that and that didn't work in the way we set it up. Is there a way we can tweak it? Is there a way we can change it? Should we throw that out and try something else? Or, and this one is the hardest one for me, and I think it's the hardest one for most people, are we just frustrated because this is new, and what we actually need to do is have patience and get better at this?
Oh, the P word.
I hate that word. I know. I don't know how you, got me to do an entire episode on that stupid word. I hate that word. But it is true, because sometimes it's not that the thing we're trying to do, start, following rules outside the bedroom, or having different kinds of conversations, or doing things differently in our relationship. Like, it's not always the activity that's the problem. Mm-hmm. It's the newness to the activity, and it's the retraining our brain to know what happens next. So habits, I've been reading a lot on habits lately. Habits are basically your brain on autopilot. And when they're good habits, that's great. It means you're functioning pretty efficiently. You're getting stuff done without having to use a lot of brain power to think about them. Bad habits, it works the same way, but it's things that do not serve you.
Yeah.
So when we change any part of our life, but in this case, in our kinky relationship, to do something different, we are switching off old habits. We are retraining ourselves to take on new habits. Habits take a while to build and form. Mm-hmm. If there is any fear or resistance to them, for any reason, that it becomes that much harder. And so sometimes what we dislike is the fact that the old way was, quote, easier, because we were in a pattern, we were in a routine, we were in a habit. We knew without thinking what we were supposed to do, how this worked. And now we have to spend a lot of brain power on thinking about every step of this new thing. And it's not the thing at all we dislike. It is the amount of energy that goes into doing the thing.
Now, I had read a fascinating study a number of years back about habits. And I think what struck me the most, the example that they used was driving to work. And you will tend to find a path to work that is most comfortable to travel. And you take that path day after day, week after week, month after month. And I know to a certain extent, all of us have experienced this at some point or another, where you get somewhere and you're kind of like, oh, I'm here already. I didn't really remember the drive.
Right, I have no memory of driving here,
Being like on autopilot. Mm-hmm. And the study said that the downside to this is it doing the same routine over, day after day, week after week, month after month, actually makes your brain lazy.
Oh, yeah, because it's using less energy.
It's using less energy. Mm-hmm. And they suggest to change your routine. Every so often, go a different way to work. Okay, take a different path. If you're walking or jogging, do a change the routine up. It keeps your brain active and working.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That makes total sense to me, and I will interject my anxious girl way of seeing this. So, as an anxious person, I crave routine because it feels safe, it feels comfortable. I don't have to think about it. As somebody who is trying to do a lot with the same amount of time everybody else has, I also crave efficiency and productivity. Like, I just want to get stuff done quickly. However, when I plan a change in my routine like that, I know I'm going to take the kids to school in a different way because we have a thing going on. Or I know that maybe today I'm not going to come home and do this thing. I've got to come home and be ready to go out because you and I are going to go do a thing. It's a slight change in my routine. As long as it's not happening all the time and it does not feel out of my control, which is a big component of that. And sometimes changes happen that we have no control over and we just got to roll with it. Those changes become exciting to me because then I am planning the change. Okay. So even though I'm doing something different, even though I'm outside of my routine, I'm not as efficient, there's a lot of places where my anxious brain could go, ooh, here's something to fear. Most of the time, when I feel like I am in control of even that small change, and the control it's a total mindfuck, y'all, because I still remember back in the day when I had a 45-minute commute one way to work. And I would, the question is, it's more of a which came first, chicken or the egg, right? So I would tell myself tomorrow, you know what I want to do? I want to stop at Sonic on my way out of town. I want to get the breakfast burrito and a Diet Coke. And that's what I want my breakfast to be this morning. I haven't done that in a couple of weeks. It totally changed my routine. It kept me fresh because I had to think about this change. I couldn't just go on autopilot.
Right.
But it also excited me because it was a thing I wanted to do. So accidentally, without trying, I was keeping myself fresh. I was changing my routine simply by doing something that I wanted to be doing. Obviously, it doesn't always work that way. Also, now I'm craving a breakfast burrito from Sonic, and I don't eat breakfast burritos anymore, so there's that. But that's another way to think about it. If your partner is bringing this suggestion to you, and the only thing that's kind of holding you back is fear of the unknown, fear of the what if, fear of how the transition or the change will, for lack of a better word, change things. And it's not about hard limits, and it's not about things you won't accept in your relationship or any of that. It is truly just fear of the change itself. Try, if you can, to find something sort of exciting in it, even if it's a small thing. When we were making plans to move here, I was thinking about, it'll be really nice not to be stuck in traffic. Once we found this house that we're renting and we realized how close things were, I got excited about Sonic again, which I think says something about my love of Sonic more than anything. But we were also like, oh wow, the grocery store is literally around the corner. The gym is here. And so
now all they need is a Starbucks around the corner.
God, I know they need more Starbucks in this town just in general. I'm just saying. But hey, we got a Dunkin' really close too. So there were things that even though that was a change I wanted, I still had those moments of, what if this was a mistake? What if this was a wrong change to make? In those moments where I felt a little out of control, where I felt like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of changes going on, I would focus on something that I was excited about, even if it had nothing to do with the move. Even though where we lived before, technically mileage-wise, our grocery store was closer.
Yeah.
But because of traffic,
it was a nightmare.
Took twice as long to get there. So those little things that I could grasp at and go, that's actually kind of cool. I'm kind of interested in what that will bring, how that will be. I look forward to that teeny tiny little element.
Yeah.
Gave me a more positive outlook on it because there was something I could clearly put my hand on and go, that's a cool thing I want to experience. And also when I started feeling kind of overwhelmed, I mean, we talked about this after we did move. We had about a month of just sort of stress from this move because we had to adjust everything in our life. And so it was saying, hey, I can go, sorry to say this again, I can go to Sonic and get the good ice in my Diet Coke. And it's right there. Or, hey, we're going to go join the gym that's truly like 5 minutes away. Whereas before it had been 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
It was those things that made me feel better about the choice, that were the positives in a kind of stressful, scary moment when I didn't quite know how things were going to sort of pan out. And was this the right decision? And are we making the right move? I mean, those questions I think should pop up at some point, even when you're the one who wants a transition in some part of your life. Even if you're the one that came to your partner and went, hey, I know we've been vanilla for the past 30 years. I would like to kink it the fuck up.
Yeah.
I think it is valid and okay and natural if even you are like, okay, are we doing the right thing here? How do I know this is the right thing? Especially because as you're changing how you do things, so you are getting off of autopilot and you're changing your habits, it's hard. It's always harder than you expected it to be. Some things might be a little bit easier than you expected, but something is always harder than you thought it would be. Whether it's the communication or it's the, figuring out what this dominant thing or this submissive thing means, or it's rejecting everything you've ever been told by society and the people around you to do. Like, there's all these things. There's all these things that we end up changing as we find our place in the world of BDSM, and some of them will be easier than we thought they would be, but some of them will be harder. And even when it's something you want, that doesn't mean it's supposed to automatically be easy to do. You are changing entire patterns of your existence that will be a challenge. It will always be a challenge. So,
Yeah.
and I do think it's important as a partner who has that fear. Your partner comes to you and says, hey, I want us to kink it up in this way. I want to try this type of kink, right? Like, ooh, we've been playing with bondage in the bedroom and I've been using Velcro cuffs, but I really, really want to tie a knot. Like, I really want to do some rope work. Will you go on this journey with me, right? Even something like that, if it makes you a little nervous, first of all, that's probably a good thing. I want you to think safety first and all of these things. It's okay to be a little bit nervous. It's okay to go, can we slow down? But even when you were the one bringing these changes and these transitions to the relationship and suggesting them and saying, these are things I'm really interested in, can we explore this? You have to go into it understanding and knowing that your partner might say no flat out, or they might say, I'm willing to try, I will commit to trying, and it still won't work out. And so only you can know how important this is to you. I mean, how many people have we met in our life as kinksters where you're one of them, told their spouse, their partner, I'm kinky, I want to be kinky, can we try this kinky thing? Get rejected by a vanilla partner, and it might not be immediate, but eventually those people are not together anymore, and, the kinkster has gone down a different path in life. Ideally, perfect world, you meet a person and you decide you love each other and you can grow together in whatever way that means, but the reality is sometimes you can't. Sometimes you cannot stay on the same path together. Sometimes you have to diverge. In some cases, you can still be a unit as a relationship and have diverging interests, and sometimes you can't. And sometimes that's not the relationship for you that you're meant to be with forever. And I don't want that for anybody. I'm not sitting here advocating for breakups to the left of me, breakups to the right of me, but
No.
I think that is a reality as well. Sometimes one of you is going to want something out of this relationship that the other one just doesn't. Even if you try, it's not a good fit. It's not for you. That is also valid. And we have to all understand that it's not just the change of, like, the person who asked the question of what we've got is good. What if this makes it better? There's also the, what if you ask for a change that your partner cannot give you? Like, that's a real thing that has to be confronted. And I don't have any easy answers for that. That shit's tough.
Yeah.
It
is. It always is.
I do think, though, if a relationship is relatively healthy, if you've got decent communication, nobody ever has perfect communication. Y'all just don't even go there. If there's a good level of trust, if there's camaraderie and friendship, and there is a genuine bond between you, and y'all, that's not necessarily sexual or romantic, it's a bond.
Yeah.
You can sometimes grow together, just sometimes at different paces and at different levels and in different ways. And sometimes if you're patient, that thing you mentioned to your partner 6 months or 6 years ago will come back around when they are at a point in their own growth and their own journey where they can think about it and make a different decision. So I also don't advocate throwing out an entire relationship because you don't get this one thing you want if everything else is really good, unless you've decided that one thing is a deal breaker. You have to have it or you can't be happy.
True.
But if you are in general happy with one another and there's not resentment and things are good, then sometimes it's more about waiting for your partner to be ready to make that transition with you instead of trying to force it. I don't think we're going to go on too much longer. One, I think that's all I can say about that personally.
Okay.
We will recap. So, partner A goes to partner B and says, let's change this kinky shit up a bit. Partner B is like, okay, it doesn't have a hard limit. I'm not like totally against it, but I'm afraid of what it could mean because things are good now. What if it makes things worse? Okay. That is the generic version of the question. So I think that applies to any relationship out there ever. One, communicate.
Yes.
Talk about, as the person coming to the partner with the request for the change, talk about what that means to you. Listen to the partner who should have questions. Bring your questions. Take time to think about your questions. Be open about your concerns and your fears. As the partner who's like all excited about this thing you want to do not act like your partner's concerns and fears are invalid. They are not. They need to be heard. They need to have space to say, but here's what I worry about. You need to come together to talk about what that means. You should not be going, oh, it'll be fine. Oh, it'll be fine. You want to know how quickly I will stop believing in somebody who's going to tell me something new when their response to every concern I have is it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. You need to back the fuck up with that shit. You better give me some concrete details. I'm an anxious person. You can't be doing that to me. I'm not. You can't placate me with that shit. No, let's be realistic. It's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. It's going to be new. It hopefully will be exciting and fun. But that doesn't mean it won't be difficult too. As long as it doesn't hit any hard limits, I would say commit to trying. Commit to trying and commit to baby steps, to test things out, to see what you like. And then, like John Brownstone said, set up a schedule where you are checking in. Daily, weekly. I would say don't let it go much more than weekly.
Right.
When you're trying new stuff, I would not. You might have small check-ins weekly where it's like a 15, 20-minute conversation, and maybe monthly you sit down and like do a full debrief. Like, pick your style, know yourself, but definitely talk about it at least a little bit, at least weekly, to say, okay, we've tried this thing. How are you doing? Are there any unexpected challenges? Are there things you like? Are there things you don't? Do we need to adjust? Blah, blah, blah. But I also would say be patient. Be patient with yourself for trying new things. Be realistic about what you don't like. Is it that you don't like this thing you're doing? Like you thought, following rules outside the bedroom would, be kind of sexy. And now you're like, I fucking hate this. I hate everything about it. Or are you hating the fact that it's not easy? Are you hating the fact that you have to think about it? Think about what it is you dislike when you have these conversations. Keep talking. It's never a one and done conversation. And then understand that sometimes the transition either cannot happen at that moment or it cannot happen between the two of you at all. And you just can't go down this path together. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Holy shit. I did that pretty quickly.
You did.
Mostly because I feel bad for you.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
So that is that. I might turn this into a more cogent blog post too, because I think this is something that is on people's minds. Maybe they just don't ask it in this way, or they think they shouldn't
it's definitely
ask.
Worth being talked about and should be talked about.
Right, because the changing things can make people nervous. Change is difficult even when it's change you want. That's just a reality. Change happens, though. Sometimes it's forced upon you. Sometimes you get to have a little bit of control. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Shout out once again to our sponsor, The Cage, thecage.co. Code Loving BDSM for 2 weeks of premium membership. Shout out to our patron CDC, Sir and Her 78MB. I think I'm going to change that up for 2020 as well, how we do shout outs, but we'll see. Okay. And we do have a bonus section, and hopefully we'll keep that brief, but we will tell you why poor John Brownstone is what we have to refer to as poor John Brownstone right now.
Yeah.
So,
are we good?
I will not lay claim to that.
Thank you. Neither will I.
Okay.
All right.
Keep it kinky, y'all, and we'll see you next week. May I please talk to the crickets, Daddy?
Yes, baby girl,
Thank
you may.
Daddy. Do you want me to talk on your behalf? Because you look like you're fading over there.
I am. The drugs are kicking in that I took at lunchtime.
Yeah. We probably should have planned this recording better than we did.
It is what it is.
So I can tell the story on your behalf. Well, you will interject, or do you want to tell?
I have found my woodworking kryptonite.
Yes, this is true.
And it kicked my ass.
Yes, this Literally. Is also true. I'm not laughing at your pain, I swear to God.
I know. I there's this wood that I love to work with. It's called silk oak.
It's beautiful.
It's natively an Australian wood, but it grows also here in South and Central Florida. And because of that, it is a wood that I can easily get my hands on as a locally sourced wood for trees that have fallen from storms or have been removed. And it's a common wood. The grain is absolutely beautiful. The color is reddish to tan. And when it's sanded properly and finished, the end grain has a beautiful shimmer to it. I love the wood. It does not love me. I suspected this a little bit because a couple times prior I've had reactions, and I decided to test that this past week. And sure enough, I had a very major reaction to it. My arms, face, and neck broke out in hives.
And your nose swelled up to like twice its normal size.
Yeah.
It was weird.
My face kind of looked like I had dragged a cheese grater over it.
You did look pitiful. I mean,
Yeah.
your eye swelled up a little bit, not as much as it has in the past.
Right.
You could see out of it, but it was your nose.
Yeah.
Wild.
Mm-hmm. And I started using some Benadryl, over-the-counter stuff, and it kind of kept it at bay, but it never really got any better.
No.
So the day before this recording...
We're recording on Wednesday, October 16th.
Yeah, the day before this, I was at the doctor's office.
I thought I could send you by yourself.
No.
No.
And, yeah, they just definitely, reaction.
Oh, yeah, that little very young doctor, even I was like, wow, you're kind of young, comes in and goes, oh, yes, you're having a reaction.
Yes.
He was in there 5 minutes. He's like, I see it.
Yeah. And so they did give me a script. What was kind of funny for me was he goes, I'm going to give you this prescription, but I want to give you an injection to kind of kickstart this a little bit. So the nurse comes walking in, and I start rolling up my sleeve.
You did not hear when he explained how the shot was going to go.
No.
So you did not understand why I was cackling.
Yeah, no.
I was cackling.
And he was like, no, it goes in the other end.
And then that's when I really let it out, because I was like, ha! But I love shots to the butt. Okay, maybe I'm a masochist, but also the quickest I ever got better from something so close to strep throat that the doctor wanted to call it strep throat, but said she couldn't technically call it strep throat, was when they gave me a shot to the ass. And within hours, I was like, this is the best I felt ever in my life. I love shots to the ass. I was very happy for you. Also, I got to look at your butt in the doctor's office, and
You did.
it was made me very happy, and yet it was socially acceptable.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
I know. How often does that happen?
Not very.
I mean, they were probably like, well, they're married, so this is fine. And then like, don't look at me too closely, because I'm leering at my daddy's ass crack in front of
In front of the doctor and nurse.
Yeah, both, yes. Yeah, I was leaning and smiling appreciatively. Mm-hmm. And also, though, very happy that he had decided to give you that shot.
Yeah.
Because I knew that's exactly it. It would kick in faster, and hopefully you'd feel
Right.
some relief, because you have been... So it started, we did our live stream last Wednesday, and you were mostly okay, but by that evening, you were not.
I was not. I was starting to itch. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much about right. I had worked with the wood last Tuesday.
Okay.
And 24 hours later.
Mm-hmm. And this is the third time you've had an allergic reaction?
Third time I've had a similar reaction. And the second time I was working with some of that wood, and I kind of had a suspicion, but I wasn't sure. And even though this was a relatively small project, and I did take some precautions, I had rubber gloves. Mm-hmm. On my hands, and I wore a full face shield. It got me anyway.
Yeah, well...
And worse than the other 2 times.
Yeah, and you're a person that has allergies in general. You've fought for most of your adult life to deal with your allergies.
True.
So, I think, yeah, you're just sort of more susceptible to that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so picture this. So last Wednesday, when we did the live stream and recorded the podcast, I was complaining about my back, which... did not stop hurting while he's going through that. So he can barely function. He's not sleeping. His face is slowly swelling up. And so he's on the couch, like, just breathing. I'm on my side of the couch going, I don't want to move. I hurt. We were like the two most pitiful people. Thankfully, we were able to kind of squeak through our week.
Yeah.
With nothing major going on, or things that we could easily, like, shift. So, yeah. And now you got worse over the weekend. I started getting better.
Right.
I mean, I'm still whining about some pain that I'm in, but it's just not as bad as it was. Yeah. Oh, and a reminder that we advocate for a tough love clause in this DS relationship. This is, like, way back in the archives.
Yeah.
Like, probably the first, like, episode 8 or episode 9 or something. Tough love clause in our power exchange, because we are 24/7, is that if he is not taking care of himself and he's not doing things he needs to do to stay healthy, whole, well, whatever, I step in and I make shit happen. And we were quickly getting to that point, so I kept going, are you sure you don't want to go to a doctor? Well, I'll see if it gets a little bit better. It might be getting a little bit better. I'm like, I don't think it's getting better. Your nose is just not looking natural anymore. So
yeah, it was Monday night you asked me that,
right, and then
and I looked at you and I said, if I don't see any noticeable difference by tomorrow morning, I'm going to a doctor.
See, that shows how out of it you were. I started asking you over the weekend.
Yeah.
But I didn't ask you, so I didn't feel like I had to pull out the real tough love clause, because the tough love clause would have had me making the appointment going. But I did do the research. So Newtown with our insurance, who takes our insurance, even though we have a gigantic freaking deductible, so it doesn't matter anyway. So I'm like, what's the closest walk-in clinic? What are their reviews? I'm like, okay, they're a mile and a half away. We know exactly where they are. We've passed them many times. Also, the pictures look fine. Also, the reviews are fine. Like, if you ever come across a doctor's office where it's 100% 5-star reviews, they have purchased those reviews.
Yeah.
Somebody is always mad at the doctor's office. So, yeah. And then I was going to let him go because I was like, it's an allergy. He's able to drive. He's been driving. It's fine. He was like, please come with me. I was like, God damn it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm getting a coffee out of this because, I've got great bedside manner, and I'm the one you want in a crisis.
As you do.
Right. Hey, you got a coffee too.
I did.
Yeah. So, yeah, and the doctor walk-in clinic, there were people ahead of us. We still got in and out in like 45 minutes. I'm pretty sure it's because for you and what you were going through, it was very straightforward.
It was.
Your face was like misshapen because of swelling. You had red hives on your neck and your arms. The doctor definitely put gloves on before he touched you.
Yes, he did.
And he kind of took a quick look and went, yes, I know what we're doing. And it was done and it was quick. That was kind of nice. So at least it was a good experience. And then, did you come home and sleep by the time you got home? Yeah. So, yeah. So
Been doing a lot of that lately.
Technically, we probably could have done the live stream today, but neither of us has slept well the past several nights. And seeing you now that you took because it was a steroid shot and then it was medication for 5 days, 1 pill for 5 days. And so he took it with lunch, and y'all cannot see how while I'm speaking, his eyelids are just getting heavy. I'm like, I am not always that interesting, but even you don't fall asleep.
No. Well, between that and the Benadryl.
Yeah.
The Benadryl.
For the itching.
Thankfully, that is subsiding. That was driving me insane.
That was taken up, preventing you from sleeping.
Yeah.
More than anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So we are hot messes over here, but we're getting better. We're on the mend.
We are.
We are on the mend.
We are.
And so that is what matters.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? I've just been trying to play catch up from last week when I was a slug. You are just sitting still and binge watching stuff on Netflix, which I don't blame you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. I feel like there should be more. I don't think there's more. I thought, silly me, and I should know better because I sit at your desk to record other things all the time, but I thought with us not having the lights on us this week and
it would be a little cooler?
Yeah, and I'm sweating through my shirt.
This is a hot little corner, isn't it?
It is, but if we turned a fan on, then that would be the ambient background noise, so
yeah.
I don't know. It's still better than the closet and the laptop.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Yeah, so we are still here. We're kind of quiet online on purpose because sometimes you just got to take care of yourself. Sorry to see to not be able to do the live stream.
I know.
But for YouTube folks, we are going to upload the audio, so they'll still get access to it if they want it.
I was concerned I might scare folks away with the way I look still.
Well, the other day before the steroid shot, yes. I mean,
Yeah.
y'all, his face it looked like we were talking like elder abuse over here. Like I was hurting him. It looked really bad. And I wouldn't have asked you to record if you were still. I would have driven your butt to a doctor and been like, fix him. But thankfully, we did not have to go that far into the tough love clause.
Right.
You handled it like a champ. But yeah, it's how things go sometimes. I am hoping that both of us can finally get a good night's sleep tonight. That would be really nice. I have forgotten what it's like. I mean, granted, I'm an adult. My idea of a good night's sleep is so different from like when I was younger. Like the idea of sleeping straight through a night, that rarely happens. Anyway, the idea of getting enough hours of sleep, that rarely happens anyway. But this bad sleep has been like nowhere near enough, even by my sad standards, and waking up all the time.
Yeah.
It's like I just want to sleep. Can I just get like 2 hours of solid sleep? That would be great. So hopefully that's the next goal. Let's sleep through the night for once. That'd be great. But yeah, so that's us. Old school podcast this week. I know. We even have it set up like the microphone is even set up for me in a really cool way that it's not normally.
Yeah, it is.
Like I don't have to bend down to get to the mic. It's kind of cool. Yeah, and we're already dreaming about when we buy our house next year and have an office and have a setup. Like can have hopefully an ideal setup.
Yeah.
Instead of MacGyvering it every single week. But yeah, that's us, I guess.
All right.
Not much else to.
No.
We love you guys.
We do.
Thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for being here.
As always.
As always, we should be back to our typical selves next week.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm shooting for.
Yeah. We can't both be unhealthy together. One of us has to be healthy at all times.
Yeah.
I know that's not always anybody's reality, but that's just my preference.
Yeah,
At least one of us needs to be healthy at a time. Okay, we're going to go. We love you guys.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.